If you'd tried this olive oil trend a few months ago, taken your little spoonful first thing in the morning, and felt absolutely nothing, no energy boost, no digestive miracle, maybe even a little nausea and an oily aftertaste that lingered for hours, you're not alone, and you're not doing anything wrong. You just haven't heard the part almost nobody talks about. There's a reason so many people over 50 try the olive oil shot, stick with it for a week or two, and quietly give up. It's not that olive oil doesn't work. It's that on its own, taken the wrong way at the wrong time, it's only giving you half of what it's capable of. And there's one very ordinary kitchen ingredient, something you almost certainly already have sitting in your fridge right now, that when combined with olive oil in the right amount at the right time of night, appears to change how your body actually uses it. We're talking about digestion, cholesterol handling, morning joint stiffness, and even how sluggish or clear-headed you feel when you wake up. I'm going to walk you through exactly what that ingredient is, the exact ratio, the exact time to take it, and just as importantly, who should not be trying this at all. Because this isn't one of those trends where more is better and everyone should jump in. There are real reasons some people need to be careful here, and I'd rather you hear that from me now than find out the hard way later. So stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something about a food you thought you already knew everything about. I'm glad you're here, and I want to be upfront about what this video is and isn't. This is not a miracle cure. It's not going to reverse anything overnight, and if anyone online is telling you a spoonful of anything will fix your cholesterol or your joints in a week, I'd encourage you to be skeptical of that. What this video is a clear, honest look at a simple, nightly habit that, done correctly, may genuinely support your digestion, your inflammation levels, and your overall sense of well-being as you get older. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly what to mix with your olive oil, why that combination seems to matter biologically, precisely when to take it and how much, and this part matters just as much as the rest, which health conditions or medications mean you should talk to your own doctor before trying this. We're going to cover the science behind it in plain language, walk through the exact ritual step by step, go over the mistakes that trip people up, and look at the broader benefits this habit may offer people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. And along the way, I want to tell you about a patient of mine because I think her experience with this is going to sound very familiar to a lot of you watching right now. Before we get into that, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Dr. Andrea Reyes, and most of my work over the years has centered on helping adults over 50 protect their long-term health through habits that are practical, sustainable, and actually grounded in evidence. Not whatever happens to be trending this month. And that's really what brought me to make this video. I can't tell you how many times a patient has come into my office holding up their phone, asking me about some wellness trend they saw online, wanting to know if it's actually worth their time or just another fad. Sometimes the answer is skip it. But every so often, there's a kernel of something genuinely useful buried underneath the hype, and I think this is one of those cases. So before we go any further, I do want to say clearly, this video is educational. It's meant to inform you, not to replace personalized medical advice from your own physician. If you're on any prescription medication, if you have gallbladder disease, liver conditions, or any kind of digestive disorder, please talk to your doctor before adding this or any new supplement routine into your life. I'm not selling anything here. I just want you to have accurate, useful information so you can make the choice that's right for you. Let me tell you about Henrietta. She's 63, a retired school teacher, and honestly, one of the most proactive patients I have when it comes to her own health. She lives alone, spends a lot of her time in a community garden club she loves, and reads everything she can get her hands on about staying healthy as she ages. But like a lot of people, she was overwhelmed by how much conflicting advice is out there. A while back, she came across the olive oil shot trend online. You've probably seen it too. People taking a spoonful of olive oil first thing in the morning and swearing by it. So Henrietta tried it. Every morning for a few weeks, she'd take her spoonful on an empty stomach before breakfast. And what she got wasn't some burst of vitality. It was an upset stomach, an oily taste that lingered all morning, and after several weeks, no noticeable difference in how she felt. She has mild, borderline high cholesterol, some stiffness in her hands and knees most mornings, nothing serious, nothing that requires medication yet, but enough that she notices it. She was frustrated. She'd put in the effort and gotten nothing for it. And that frustration is actually where this story and this explanation really begins, because what Henrietta was missing wasn't effort. It was information. Here's the thing about extra virgin olive oil that most of these trends leave out. It genuinely is a remarkable food. It's rich in monounsaturated fats, and it contains polyphenols, compounds like oleocanthal and oleuropein, along with vitamin E, all of which have real, research-supported benefits when they're part of a healthy diet. So I'm not here to tell you olive oil is overrated. It isn't. But taken completely alone, especially on an empty stomach the way Henrietta was doing it, a few things tend to go wrong for people over 50. First, your body needs a certain amount of bile to fully digest and process a concentrated dose of fat, and that bile release isn't always fully stimulated by fat alone, especially first thing in the morning before you've eaten anything. Second, a dense, oily substance hitting a completely empty stomach can genuinely cause nausea or reflux in some people. It's just a lot for your digestive system to handle without anything else to work alongside it. And third, and this is the part that really surprised a lot of my patients when I explained it, some of olive oil's most beneficial antioxidant compounds appear to be better absorbed when there's a little acidity or vitamin C present alongside them. Plain oil by itself doesn't provide that. I like to think of it this way. Imagine olive oil as half of a key. It's a real key. It's well made, and it's shaped correctly. But a lock needs both halves to actually turn, and without the second half, you can jiggle that key in there all day, and the door simply isn't going to open. That's essentially what's happening when people take olive oil completely on its own. The nutrients are there. They're real. But your body's ability to fully absorb and use them isn't being unlocked the way it could be. This lines up with what a lot of nutrition research actually shows us. 2. When researchers look at the benefits associated with olive oil, particularly within Mediterranean-style eating patterns, those benefits are almost always observed in the context of olive oil being consumed with other foods, not in isolation as some kind of standalone shot. And on top of the absorption issue, there's a more immediate practical problem. Taking any oil in a large amount by itself can cause loose stools or general digestive discomfort in some people, which is exactly the kind of complaint I hear constantly from patients who've tried this trend and given up on it, frustrated, the same way Henrietta was. When she described her experience to me, the nausea, the oily aftertaste, feeling like she'd wasted 3 weeks for nothing, that frustration is exactly what led me to explain to her what I'm about to explain to you. So what is the missing half of that key? It's something wonderfully ordinary, fresh lemon juice. Just the juice of about half a lemon, or roughly a teaspoon if you're measuring, combined with your tablespoon of olive oil. I know that might sound almost too simple, but let me walk you through why this particular pairing seems to matter. Lemon juice contains vitamin C and a mild citric acid, and both of those appear to help stimulate bile flow when they're taken alongside a source of fat, which supports more complete digestion of the oil, rather than it just sitting heavily in your stomach the way Henrietta experienced. There's also something researchers sometimes refer to as nutrient synergy, and it's a genuinely interesting concept. Vitamin C is water-soluble, while many of olive oil's protective compounds, like vitamin E and those polyphenols I mentioned, are fat-soluble. When you pair a water-soluble antioxidant with fat-soluble ones, the two appear to support the absorption of a broader range of protective compounds together than either one tends to on its own. If that sounds abstract, Think about something you may have already heard of: the way your body absorbs iron from spinach more effectively when you add a squeeze of lemon to it. It's the same underlying principle at work: pairing nutrients so your body can actually make use of more of what you're eating, rather than letting a good portion of it pass through unused. And there's a practical benefit here too, beyond the biology. That citrus acidity helps cut through the heaviness of the oil, which is part of why this version tends to be so much easier to tolerate than a plain oil shot, especially when you're having it in the evening rather than the morning. One thing I do want to flag, because it's a mistake I see often: please use fresh lemon juice, not the bottled kind with preservatives added. Fresh really does make a meaningful difference here, both in how gentle it is on your stomach and in the quality of what you're actually getting. And you don't need more than that half lemon. More is not more effective. Too much citric acid on a regular basis can actually irritate your stomach lining or, over time, your tooth enamel. When I explained all of this to Henrietta, she was a little surprised at how simple it was. She tried it that same week, and she told me the taste was honestly much more pleasant than she expected. A little bright, a little sharp, nothing like the heavy, oily spoonful she'd been forcing down every morning before. But timing matters just as much as the ingredients themselves, so let's get specific, because I want you to be able to actually do this correctly if you decide to try it. The ritual is 1 tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil, combined with the juice of half a fresh lemon, stirred together and taken about 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Ideally, you want at least 2 to 3 hours between your last meal and taking this, so your stomach isn't already full when you do it. Why bedtime instead of first thing in the morning, which is what most of these trends push? Overnight, your digestive system settles into a slower, more regulated rhythm. You're not rushing off to make coffee, get dressed, and start your day the moment you finish, which for a lot of people over 50 genuinely reduces the chances of reflux or that uncomfortable, heavy feeling. A couple of practical tips that make this easier: sip a small amount of room temperature water afterward. And if you're concerned about the lemon's acidity affecting your teeth, drinking it through a straw is a simple way to protect your enamel. And I want to be honest with you about expectations here. This is a gentle nightly habit. It's not a one-time detox, and it's not going to produce some dramatic overnight transformation. If it helps, it tends to help gradually over weeks as a small, consistent addition to how you're already taking care of yourself. It works alongside a balanced diet, regular movement, and any medications your doctor has you on, never as a replacement for any of that. Henrietta wove this into her existing nightly routine pretty naturally. She'd do her puzzle or read for a bit, and then have her lemon and olive oil about half an hour before turning in. She started keeping a simple mental note of how her mornings felt over the following couple of weeks, which, as you'll hear shortly, turned out to be worth paying attention to. Before I go further, I'm curious about something, and I genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Have you tried the olive oil shot trend before? What was your experience? Did it upset your stomach the way it did for Henrietta, or did you notice something different? And if you don't mind sharing, let me know what city or country you're watching from. I'm always amazed at how far these little habits travel, and it would be interesting to see just how widespread this trend already is among all of you. Now, I do want to shift gears for a moment, because there are some real mistakes and real precautions worth understanding before you try this yourself. The most common mistake I see is simply using too much. More olive oil is not more beneficial. Going beyond a tablespoon regularly can lead to diarrhea or just add unnecessary calories to your day without any added benefit. Another mistake is using old or lower quality oil. Rancid or poorly stored olive oil loses a lot of its beneficial compounds and is honestly more likely to upset your stomach rather than support it. And as I mentioned, using bottled lemon juice with added preservatives instead of fresh isn't going to give you the same benefit and can be harsher on your digestion. I'd also caution against stacking this with several other detox trends at the same time. Piling too many new digestive habits on all at once tends to overwhelm your system rather than support it, and makes it hard to tell what's actually helping you and what isn't. Now, more importantly, who should be cautious here, or skip this altogether without talking to their doctor first? If you have gallstones or gallbladder disease, a concentrated dose of fat can actually trigger a painful gallbladder attack, so this is not a habit for you without your doctor's guidance. If you struggle with acid reflux or GERD, both the fat content and the citrus acidity have the potential to worsen your symptoms, so please be cautious. If you're on blood thinners, vitamin C and citrus can occasionally interact with those medications, and that's not something to guess about. Ask your prescribing doctor first. If you have kidney stones, I'd encourage a conversation with your doctor as well, even though lemon itself is generally considered low in the compounds most associated with stone risk. And if you have any diagnosed liver condition, please check with your physician before adding this in. I know that's a fair amount of caution for what sounds like such a simple habit, but I'd genuinely rather you hear all of this clearly from me than skip past it. When I laid all of this out for Henrietta, she did exactly what I'd want any of my patients to do. She checked in with me about her own health history before continuing with the routine regularly, confirmed it was fine for her specific situation, and only then kept it up as part of her nightly habits. That's the kind of thoughtful, unhurried approach I'd encourage from all of you too. Now let's talk about what this habit may actually offer, because there is real promise here when it's done thoughtfully and it fits your health picture. Oleocanthal, one of those polyphenols I mentioned earlier in olive oil, has natural anti-inflammatory properties that some research has linked to reduced stiffness, which is particularly relevant if, like Henrietta, you deal with some morning stiffness in your hands or knees. I sometimes describe oleocanthal's effect as something like turning down the volume on background inflammation in your body. It's not eliminating it, but it may be quieting it somewhat. There's also a cardiovascular angle worth mentioning. The monounsaturated fats and polyphenols in olive oil are associated with healthier cholesterol patterns, particularly as part of an overall Mediterranean-style way of eating, which is exactly the kind of pattern Henrietta's mild borderline high cholesterol would benefit from supporting. Beyond that, there's a skin and cellular health angle too. Vitamin E and the antioxidants in olive oil support your body's defense against oxidative stress, which is one of the underlying factors in how we age at a cellular level. And then there's digestion itself. The mild, stimulating effect this combination has on bile flow may support more comfortable, regular mornings for some people, rather than the sluggish feeling many of us associate with getting older. I want to be honest with you about all of this, the same way I was with Henrietta. These are supportive associations that come out of nutrition science, not guaranteed outcomes for every single person, and results really do vary from one person to the next. No single nightly habit is going to replace the fundamentals: movement, sleep, a genuinely balanced diet. But small, consistent habits like this one do tend to compound over time in ways that matter. For Henrietta, several weeks into her new nightly ritual, she told me she was noticing less stiffness in her hands in the mornings. Her digestion felt more comfortable and predictable, and maybe just as meaningfully, she had this small but real sense of taking proactive control over her own aging process, rather than just reacting to whatever came up. When Henrietta and I talked about it recently, she said something that stuck with me. She said this little ritual has become a genuinely comforting part of her evening now, something she looks forward to rather than something she's forcing herself to do. And she was quick to say she knows it isn't a miracle fix for anything, but she feels more informed and more in control of her own health after 50, and honestly, that's exactly the outcome I hope for with every patient I talk to about something like this. So let's bring this all together. Olive oil on its own may fall short of its full potential for a lot of people, particularly when it's taken on an empty stomach, the way so many trends suggest. Pairing it with fresh lemon juice, in the right amount, taken correctly before bed, may support easier digestion and better absorption of its beneficial compounds. Timing matters, quality matters, and consistency matters far more than intensity ever will. And I want to leave you with the same reminder I gave Henrietta, and that I've repeated throughout this video. If you have gallbladder issues, reflux, kidney concerns, or you're on any medication, please talk to your own doctor before starting this. My practical advice is simple. Start small. Use good quality ingredients, and let this be a gentle, sustainable addition to your routine, rather than something aggressive. Aging well after 50 was never really about chasing the next miracle trend online. It's about small, sustainable, well-informed choices made consistently over a long period of time. And honestly, the fact that you took the time to watch this whole video to actually understand the why behind a habit, rather than just blindly copying whatever's trending, that curiosity and that care for your own health is itself a meaningful step in the right direction. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe so I can keep bringing you practical, honestly explained habits for living well after 50. And if this video gave you something useful, a like helps more people like you find it too.